No truly great artist has ever been appreciated in his lifetime.
No, not one.
No.
Slender.
Take Van Gogh or Edgar Allan Poe. Poe died poor and freezing with his cat curled on his feet.
So David, don't give up on it. Maybe it'll be produced posthumously.
You know, I have never had a play produced. And that's right, and I've written one play every year for the past 20 years.
Yes, but that's because you're a genius. And the proof is that both common people and intellectuals find your work completely incoherent.
This is the 1994 Woody Allen comedy Bullets Over Broadway. We open on John Cusack as David Shane, proclaiming that he is an artist. He's a playwright who's been burnt before by directors changing his work. This time he will direct his play and he refuses to make any compromises. Meanwhile, mobster Nick Valenti watches his girlfriend Olive wiggle on stage at a nightclub. She demands that he gets her out of the chorus and into a proper production. David's manager agrees that Olive will be cast if Nick Valenti financially backs the entire show. David Shane is dead against the idea but yields when his manager suggests the once great but now on hard times Helen Sinclair to play the lead. David and his manager meet Olive and the play's patron. Olive is annoyed that she's been cast in a supporting role and not the lead. David suppresses a panic attack when he sees how horribly wrong this stripper is for the role of a psychiatrist. David wakes that night screaming out how he's sold out. He phones his manager and tells him that he would only cast Olive if he can also have Warner Purcell, another actor who's on the far side of fame, and this time with an anxiety-driven eating disorder. Nick Valenti hires an uneducated thug, Cheech, to keep an eye on his girlfriend while she rehearses. But David doesn't like him hanging around the theatre whilst they're working. Cheech makes it clear that where she goes, he goes. Helen Sinclair takes David for a drink, or three, and suggests some rewrites to beef up her star role. Meanwhile, Cheech runs a few errands and then runs a few lines. Olive is a horrible actress and the rehearsals are going far from smoothly. Warner has started to eat to excess, but Helen and David are growing closer. Cheech, sick to death of hearing the play's trite dialogue over and over, suggests a script change which David laughs off, coming from a mobster as it does. But the cast seem to think it's a good idea. That night, David bumps into Cheech in a bar and sucks up his pride and thanks him for the note. Cheech gives him a lot more ideas of how to improve his text, and before they know it, Cheech is an uncredited co-writer and one of some notable talent. As opening night draws closer, Cheech has some concerns over Olive's casting. He fears that she is going to ruin his play. The uneducated mobster has now become the lovey artist.
I just thought it was a funny idea that a guy wants to put on a show and a gangster, bankrolls it and makes his girlfriend the star of it or one of the stars of it.
Bullets Over Broadway is I just think it's a wonderful movie. I mean, what they say, write about what you know. Well,
unusually for Woody Allen, who writes most of his films alone, this was a collaboration with Douglas McGrath, who was best known for his humorous articles in The New Yorker and The New Republic at the time, but has since gone on to direct several big films, including Nicholas Nickleby and the other Truman Capote film of 2006, Infamous.
We spoke a lot by phone when he was making Bullets, and so I'd say, how's the movie going? And he'd say, everything's going great, but at first Dianne Wiest, whom I had felt right from the beginning was wrong for that part, and had no trouble telling him, kept saying, Dianne Wiest for that vain, hammy actress? Because she's so sweet and vulnerable, and, it seems so not like Dianne Wiest. He kept saying, no, she has to do it, she can do anything. So I thought, okay, go ahead, sink your own picture, what do I know?
What happened was this. We shot for 2 days. He said, tonight, come and see the dailies with me. I sat there and I saw this painful attempt for me to do this role. Pathetic. And he said, do you see? And I said, yeah, I do. He said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, you've got to pick up the phone and you've got to find somebody who can do this. It's not me. You've got to replace me. He said, no. There's something we can do. There's something.
She couldn't believe that I wanted her to play it so broadly. And I did. I wanted her to play it like Norma Desmond, just as broad as could be. She went straight from there to her, I think, second Academy Award.
The writers were also nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Now, I don't really care for the Oscars on the whole, but the comedic writing on this film is exceptional. I forget where I read this. I have a feeling it might be the words of Bruce Robinson, the writer of With Nail and I, but I'm having trouble sourcing it. But whomever it was said that good comedy should only be funny in context. If you look at an episode of Family Guy, for example, it has a lot of gags in it, but they could really play out in almost any order, and it wouldn't massively affect the story. The same could be said for most of Will Ferrell's work, or even the work of the Marx Brothers for that matter. That's not to say that these are bad, but their films or TV shows live or die by how funny you find the gag, because without that laugh, there's no plotted reason for the scene to be there. Whereas if we took a scene from a particularly well-plotted comedy, I'm particularly fond of Tootsie, which was written by Larry Gelbart, but Elaine May did a large uncredited rewrite. None of the scenes are funny in isolation. Michael Dorsey hitting on women at the party is only funny when you've seen him using the same lines on every woman. When Michael professes his desire for his friend, Sandy, just to get out of a sticky situation, it is hilarious in the film, but if I were to use a clip of it here, I guarantee it would be greeted with indifference. The better a comedy is written, the harder it is to cut it down to clips.
We were trying to avoid farce. We were trying to make it situational comedy that's reality-driven, if you will. I mean, I know that's a mouthful, and I don't know quite how to describe it, but I have no skill in farce. I'm not a farceur. I don't know the way Blake Edwards knew how to stage visual sight gags and things like that, which were hilarious. The humor in Tootsie comes out of a kind of ridiculous situation which is handled as though it's Shakespeare or Chekhov or something. It's not handled at any degree like it's exaggerated. So all of the work we did was trying to anchor it in as much reality as possible, hence the desperate avoidance of falsetto, because that would have made it cartoony in a way.
What I like so much about Bullets Over Broadway is that every character is taking the situation seriously. Cheech, the mobster, is not a comedy mobster. He's played by Chazz Palminteri. He could have walked straight off the set of a Martin Scorsese film. There are, of course, gags and a few one-liners along the way, but on the whole, every scene is taken seriously by the actors. No one is breaking character, or no one's talking to camera.
It takes so many things to make love last. Most of all, it takes respect. And I can't live with the man I don't respect.
What a pisser.
I'm going to reiterate, as I know what the internet's like. There is nothing wrong with gag-based comedy. Woody Allen has made a fair few gag-based films himself, but that's not writing a good comedy. That's writing some funny jokes. A good comedy requires structure and form, which Bullets Over Broadway should be a masterclass in.
When I was ready to do my first movie, Take the Money and Run, I had seen Blow Up, and I thought it was a very beautiful picture. And I said, who did that? And I said, Carlo De Palma. And I went and I looked at Red Desert, and I saw that he was such a strikingly beautiful color photographer. I mean, it was just amazing. I just thought, since I was making a movie, he was the best photographer that I could have hired at the time, but unfortunately, he had another picture he was doing.
Although Woody Allen didn't get to work with cinematographer Carlo De Palma on his first picture, he did get to work with him on no less than 12 movies, including Bullets Over Broadway.
We both had the same taste in many things in terms of film and what film should look like and what the color should look like and the movement should be about. And then we began. Our first movie together was, I think, Hannah and Her Sisters. And Carlo lived up to all our expectations.
Unlike many comedies which are brightly lit, this film lives in the shadows. The period setting complemented by the glow of the warm tones and the atmospheric lighting. Somehow that managed to escape any award nominations. A cruel oversight in my opinion.
proudest accomplishment, Jennifer Tilly?
Well, I would say getting the Oscar nomination because, you know, the Weinstein Company released the movie, and I actually never had any interaction with Harvey aside from that because I didn't.
Lucky you. You won twice.
I know, it's really weird, but at the time, everybody wanted to be in a Weinstein movie, and I was like, why have I never had a single audition for a Weinstein movie? But I think they're a little perturbed because they decided to put Dianne Wiest in the supporting actress category, even though she is very clearly a lead actress, and had 2/3 of more screen time. It was called, Dianne Wiest from Hannah and Her Sisters, and she was wonderful. So I was like, I'm going to do my own campaign. And I didn't realize that you have to be submitted by the studio or your agent or your publicist. So I wasn't submitted for anything. But so there was no buzz about me. So I didn't get nominated for a Golden Globe or Writers Guild or any of these things. But Jay Leno always liked to have me on because I always had lots to say. And they called up and they go, would Jennifer like to come on to the show and discuss her discuss her Oscar campaign. I thought bitterly, what Oscar campaign? And then I thought, well, I'm going to make it happen. I said, only if he uses the phrase Oscar buzz. So I was standing backstage and he goes, our next guest has Oscar buzz surrounding her performance. And I sort of smirked and went, she does now. And I went out there. I went on all the talk shows talking about the part. And then I took out ads in the Variety. And I was glad that they were so cheap because I didn't have any money back then. The Weinstein Company would take out black and white ads. So I would do a picture of Woody Allen. I have a picture of him laughing uproariously at something I said, like, she's so wonderful. And I slapped the Weinstein logo in the corner. And nobody was more surprised than my publicist when I got nominated. She was asleep. I woke her up. I was like, I got nominated for an Oscar.
Well, that should have been your ex-publicist at that point.
She was like, she said, are you sure? I was like, yes, I saw it on TV.
That's what you want off the woman who's supposed to be the point on the spear of your public recognition. Are you sure?
She was like, she's hallucinating. But I was very proud because I did it all myself.
This production was distributed by the Weinsteins, Harvey and Bob, then of Miramax. They had little to do with the production as the film was produced by Jean Dominion.
You say, I'm going to produce this because I think it's great, no matter what. And you try and convince your co-producers that you're right.
Upon its release, Bullets Over Broadway was a critical success, but not a huge financial one. At the time of recording, it was certified 95% fresh according to Rotten Tomatoes critics score, and a healthy 83% according to the audience members who also used their site.
It's been a dream come true to make my Broadway debut this season in a new musical comedy with a book by Woody Allen, big laughs, colorful characters, and the songs that made the 20s roar. I portray an aspiring young playwright who's forced to cast a mobster's talentless girlfriend in my play to get it produced, something that has never happened in the history of the theater. Now, please welcome Tony nominee Nick Cordero and the company of Bullets Over Broadway.
Woody Allen is known for not revisiting his films after their release, but after years of persuasion, he was finally convinced to turn Bullets Over Broadway into a Broadway show in 2014.
If I dislike my lover and leave her for another, tain't nobody's business if I do. Well, I won't call no copper if I'm beat up by my papa. Tain't nobody's business if I do. After all, the way to do is do just as you please, regardless of their talking. Oftentimes the ones that talk will get down on their knees and beg your pardon for their squawking.
The John Cusack role was now played by Zach Braff, who had worked with Woody Allen once before.
You were in a scene with Diane Keaton, Woody, and Angelica Houston.
Yeah.
The Manhattan Murder. That's a big scene to be in.
Yeah, and I was 18 and so friggin' terrified. If you look at the movie now, I'm in it for like a minute. Now that I'm telling you this, rewatch it, and I'm terrified. I look like none of them are sticking to the script. They're all just improvising all over the place, and I felt like this responsibility to get us back on page.
Did you look at Diane Keaton and say, I'm sorry, what?
Well, because I met Woody Allen, they said, I was very nervous, and they said that I met Woody Allen. I had auditioned for him, but the day I got there, they said, all right, the director wants to run lines with you in his trailer. And I thought, okay, I was so nervous that I didn't even think, well, the director's Woody Allen, obviously. But I was just thinking, okay, good, I'll meet the director, and he'll calm me down. And I got into the trailer, and it was a big, movie-making Hollywood dressing room trailer, and it was myself, Diane Keaton, and Woody Allen. the three of us sitting there. And he said, okay, we're probably not going to say a lot of these lines that are on the page. We'll just try and keep up. And it was him and Diane Keaton, and they just started riffing, and I was like looking at the script like, do I have old pages? They were just, you know, they have all these years of being wonderful together and riffing together, and they just did that. So I got a couple of words in there, but if you look at my face, I look like a very terrified 18-year-old who's in over his head.
Let me tell you, listen, when you go to the wine tasting, honey, getting back to
I
real
see.
life, spit it out, okay?
Don't
When you-
drink
when you
too much, Mom.
Yeah,
What do you mean,
spit it
Nick?
out. They spit it out at a wine tasting, you know what I mean? Because I don't want you to be laying on the bathroom floor with your head by the bowl tonight, you know, do all the stuff.
And this was not Woody Allen's first foray into musicals, having written, directed and starred in 1996's Everyone Says I Love You.
My baby don't care for rings or other expensive things. My baby just cares for me. My baby don't go for big Rolls Royces. There's sometimes a doubt about her choices. My baby don't care to own some 14-karat stone. She's sensible as can be. My baby don't care who knows it. My baby just cares for me.
And in the stage production, as in this film, rather than composing original music, they use a lot of jazz standards.
There's a broken heart for every night on Broadway. A million tears for every gleam they say. Those lights above you think nothing of you. It's those that love you that have to pay.
It works better in the stage production of Bullets Over Broadway than it does in Everyone Says I Love You, as the songs are from around the same period of which the play is set. What I really enjoyed is when scenes like this one are translated from screen to stage. They took the background music, Cole Porter's Let's Misbehave, and turned it into dialogue.
I'm not in the mood.
What do you mean you're not in the mood?
You better get in the mood, honey, because he's paying the rent. Shut up, Venus.
We're all a little chattering, can't get our number. The world in slumber, let's misbehave.
I gotta tell you, and I gotta tell you too, your numbers are showstoppers. That thing you do in the first act, you know, tain't nobody's business if I do.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the show the other night, and it literally, the show stopped. It was almost a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And then there's this look you get where we all know, you know we love you. And you're the chorus behind you, all these dancing mobsters, how you've cleverly incorporated the song into the text and your voice just hitting it out of the park. The dancing, it's like a Broadway moment.
Yeah,
what's it like to do that 8 times a week?
It's amazing. You know, when I first showed up, Susan Stroman said, so by the way, you're going to be, you know, you're going to lead a gangster tap number in the show, and I'm not a tap dancer, or at least at that time I wasn't.
You're not a tap dancer?
I'm not really, no. I mean, you know, I've always danced, and, you know, I like to move around and stuff, but that was pretty intricate stuff. And, but, you know, it's a testament to her choreography and her talent and the team she has around her. That, you know, we showed up early every day before rehearsal just to sort of get me acclimatized to what I was supposed to be doing up there. And now it's a lot of fun. You know, I kind of know the steps, and I'm able to imbue it with character, and it's just an extension of Cheech's artistry, I think.
Yeah, which is kind of what the show is all about. Cheech is actually responsible for the success, but it cost him dearly.
The reviews of the stage production were largely good, but the show, for whatever reason, didn't find its audience. I think the most likely reason was the release just came 10 years too late. The show closed after 156 performances and 33 previews.
Ha! Look who's here, the big Broadway success. I don't write hits. My plays are art. They're written specifically to go unproduced.
Is Ellen there?
No, she's not here.
I think she is.
Congratulations on your hit, David. I always knew you had it in you.
Yeah, well, you were wrong. I have to ask you a question.
What?
Did you love me as the artist or as the man?
Both.
Well, what if it turned out that I wasn't really an artist?
I could love a man if he's not a real artist, but I couldn't love an artist if he's not a real man.
Yeah, but this is all academic. She's with me now. You're with me.
Do you want to be with Flender? Do you really want to be with Flender?
Yes.
Hey, Flender is a great lover.
Hey, I slept with Flender. He was just okay.
I often talk about films on this channel which are flawed but interesting. For a change, I wanted to talk about something which is excellent, and Bullets Over Broadway is it. If you've not seen it, I really recommend it. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.